Cheers, Vikings fans. Oh boy, finally. Welcome back, Minnesota Vikings fans. Here we go, boys and girls. Finally, after all this time, after how bad of a 2020 season we had overall, 2021 regular season is upon us. Whew. Boy, I swear, these off seasons just get longer and longer. And as a Vikings fan, well, again, last year, especially on the defense, geez. So, yeah. And, kind of real quick here before we get into the actual previews and all that stuff and sort of the things I'm looking at. Well, to be fair, if you're a Vikings fan and all that stuff, you kind of... I don't know if I'm the only one that feels this way, but I'm probably not as a Vikings fan. But, again, this season has the makings of a make-or-break season, because if the Vikings end up like they did last year, well, let's just say there could be an all-new staff, including GM, moving into the 2022 season. So... yeah, I mean, again, this is one of those seasons where a lot is at stake. Well, I mean, to be fair, though, most seasons have a lot at stake. But still, you know, the Minnesota Vikings have a tough schedule ahead. I mean, woof, is it difficult. So, but, again... we'll just wait and see what happens. I mean, you know, there's not really much else you can do other than just wait and see. So, but yeah, I mean, whew. Again, I'm just glad that Vikings football is back. Finally, we can get back at it. And I know that my blood pressure, my doctors, and all that stuff will absolutely hate that we're back in football season because, well, again, Vikings fans and all that stuff, you know. Oh, boy. Yeah, I don't think I really need to do much more diving into being a Vikings fan there. I mean, it's just... you know, they'll probably find new ways to ruin it all. But, again, it... oh, man. But still... finally, we're back. Especially because 2021, you know, especially after what happened in 2020 and all that stuff, it's just good to actually have fans back. It's actually good to be able to, you know, do stuff again and actually go to games and stuff like that again. So that'll definitely factor into some of these, you know, games moving forward, especially like the tougher places to play and all that stuff. So, but again, here's the football, baby. We're finally back. So here are 4 things that I'll be looking forward to kind of seeing when we go to Cincinnati to take on the Cincinnati Bengals. So, well, first and foremost, how does our defense look compared to Joe Burrow, Joe Mixon, Jamar Chase, you know, the Bengals offensive line and all that stuff. So, yeah, I mean, those are obviously going to probably be the 4 biggest keys for, you know, the Minnesota Vikings defense to hone in on against the Bengals offense because, again, Joe Burrow coming off of that ACL injury, their offensive line basically being about as good as the Vikings offensive line. Woof. Joe Mixon being a stud. Jamar Chase being very, very much like a rookie receiver. Very inconsistent when it comes to catching. But... yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see, though, with that, because, again, the Vikings defense has a lot of new players, or, well, let me rephrase that, a lot of new players from the 2020 season going into 2021 season. Not so much, because we've had a few players come back, ironically enough, and, so, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see guys like Patrick Peterson, Mac Alexander, who's back, ironically enough, from the Bengals. Everson Griffin is back, and then cut, then back, then cut, then back, and now he's back. There's a reason why I didn't do a 53-man roster, because, wow. Just, oh boy. Yeah, let's just say there was a lot of moves that had to be made in order to make the moves that needed to be made. I know half of the audience out there's like, huh? Well, yeah, that was pretty much me during the whole 53-man roster / practice squad building, maneuvers from Spielman and the boys. So, yeah. Let's just say I think we're good to go on this one. But again, with the defense having as many pieces new as they are, including, our D tackles in Dalvin Tomlinson and Michael Pierce, having Danielle Hunter back will be huge. Griffin with Weatherly and those guys. So, yeah, our defensive line is going to be stacked. Our secondary, as I said before, with Patrick Peterson, Mac Alexander being back, guys like Cam Dantzler, can he step up? Because, unfortunately, during a preseason, Dantzler didn't look that great. Guys like Chris Boyd, Josh Metellus, who'll be backing up guys like Harrison Smith, Xavier Woods being a new guy. I mean, whoo, buddy. So, and of course our linebacking core still being kind of up in the air, other than Kendricks and maybe Nick Vigil, Anthony Barr, we'll see, and all that stuff. But, I mean, our defense should be a lot better than it was last year. I mean, it really can't get much worse because, again, woof. But we'll see. And, yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see how these, how those guys gel over the next few weeks and stuff. Just because, again, a lot of those guys didn't play a lot during the preseason. Granted, a lot of those guys didn't really need to play a lot during the preseason, I guess. But, I mean, it would have been nice to see Patrick Peterson and guys like that out there for at least a couple snaps just to kind of get the continuity with the calling of the defenses and all that stuff. But, I mean, we'll see. We'll definitely see. And then, of course, I should say probably the second biggest elephant in the room is our special teams, because for like the umpteenth gazillionth year, the Vikings special teams changes. Pretty dramatically, actually. And you wonder why Zimmer hates fucking kickers. But again, there's only so much you can do about that, because again, it's amazing just how much how mental it is in like the brain of like the kicker and all that stuff, because boy, you want to talk about a cutthroat position. I mean, holy moly. Because again, how many times have the Vikings sent out guys like, back in the day, like Gary Anderson, now like Ryan Longwell, Walsh, Daniel Carlson, which still kind of stings a little bit, but, Dan Bailey, and now our new kicker in Greg Joseph. So, who, for whatever reason, during preseason couldn't kick it past 50, which, I mean, again, I don't know how much of that's because he hasn't really kicked a ton in the league, or how much of that's just, again, the Vikings special teams being the Vikings special teams. Ugh. Again, gonna need more of this. But, oh boy. And of course, we also recently got a new punter in Jordan Berry. So, an Australian punter who originally came over from the Pittsburgh Steelers for us. So, I mean, he's held and stuff like that. I mean, he's been in the league for a few seasons, but again, the special teams is the special teams, and oh man. And of course, with the return game, it seems like ISM pretty much won most of it, with KJ Osborne being back there as well. I mean, I would have loved to see Nwangu, but again, when he was injured after week 1, he's been placed on the temporary IR and all that stuff. But again, we'll just wait and see what happens. So now on to the third elephant in the room, as I like to call it, the offensive line for the Minnesota Vikings, because woof, woof, woof. I mean, I don't know what it is with the Vikings offensive line and just not getting it, or just Spielman's moves not working out, or just the fact that no one actually freaking grooms the guys, or whatever the case might be, but oh man. For another year, the Vikings offensive line scares the ever-loving bejesus out of me. So, I mean, we'll see, because it sounds like Darisaw is on his way back. Rashad Hill looks decent, Ezra Cleveland moving from right guard to left guard when he was originally tackle. I mean, Garrett Bradbury not really having great guards around him. Ryan O'Neal potentially going to need to be paid here pretty soon because he's arguably, if not our best offensive lineman, one of our best offensive linemen, maybe even one of our best offensive players. Yeah, because that offensive line is going to have to go up against some pretty nasty defenses in this season. By the way, did I mention we have the 5th hardest schedule? And playing the AFC North, NFC West. Yeah, we're going to be going up against some squads this year. So, hopefully our offensive line can be up for the test there, because, well, we all see what happens when Kirk Cousins has no time/awareness in the pocket. Well, not good. Not good at all. And, again, we'll just kind of see there, because I have a feeling the gelling and all that stuff will happen during the year. So, yeah. And then, of course, our offensive playbook. How does our offense look against their defense and all that stuff? And again, for another time in Vikings history, recent Vikings history, we have another new coordinator. Because the Vikings offensive coordinators always end up leaving. Probably, I mean, obviously, for health reasons, or in the case of Kevin Stefanski, yeah. Thankfully, Clint Kubiak was underneath his father and Gary Kubiak, which might help us a little bit there, but again, we'll wait and see, because it's going to probably take a couple weeks for everything to come together, because just like the defense, the offense really didn't have a lot of continuity during preseason and all that stuff, so. But thankfully, though, I feel a lot better on our offense, because, again, the offense is what kept the Vikings in most of the games last year, including guys like, Thielen, Jefferson, Dalvin Cook will be back, and you can't forget about the hammer in C.J. Ham, even though Irv Smith's loss, oh, man. You want to talk about a dick punch, gut kick, just at the worst possible time, because, again, he had flashes of being just an absolute monster this year for the offense. But, again, thankfully, the Vikings did trade for another tight end in Chris Herndon from the New York Jets. So, again, from kind of what I've been hearing, he's a hot and cold tight end too. When he's on, he's really good, but he's had some issues in the past couple seasons, so. But, yeah. let's just say, thank God it's football season again, baby, because regardless of what happens, I'll be here till the end. Because Vikings fans, we sure know how to stay by our team, because God knows how many times this team has kicked us in the nuts, punched us in the gut. I mean, it's just... whew. But yeah, I mean, that pretty much will round this out. So, again, stay tuned, because Sunday afterwards, I'll definitely be sure to give you my raw, unedited version of what happens in the game. And also stay tuned, because, well, I don't know if you heard that earlier, but I got a new package. So stay tuned for that. And, yeah. Skull, fuckers. Let's do this shit. We're about to bring that purple rain. Hopefully. Again, I'm always cautiously optimistic here, but again, this Vikings team has a lot of talent on it. And it'll just be interesting to see what happens. I mean, so... But yeah, I mean, if I had to predict, I would say the Vikings will probably win this one, just because our talent is a little better than Cincinnati's talent is at this point. Because remember, you know, they do have a couple key pieces that are out as well. And, you know, Joe Burrow coming back from his ACL and all that stuff too, you know, so. But, again, we'll just wait and see what happens. So, until we meet again, this is Jacob. Have a good day.